Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And a special welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Good morning, folks. Glad you tuned in. So ride along with me this hour, and we'll share a little information about automobiles and cars and all the things in between. And there's a lot in between. I'll tell you, from bumper to bumper, in your automobile, the average number of black boxes is 25. There was a time when the average cost of a new car was, let's say, $25,000. Now the average price of a new car, as I understand, is closer to 35. It's in the low 30s. And when you think about that, you think about the number of black boxes, the technology that's involved and included in new cars is for your safety. Last evening, I had an interesting conversation with a dear friend of mine, Karen, and we were talking about AI, artificial intelligence. And I have to tell you, she made some really strong points, and I'll share a few of those with you along the way as we go. But in the meantime, give us a call, 888 227-2546. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part this morning by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats, caps, and now engine management products like crank and cam sensors, VVT solenoids, that's variable valve timing solenoids, and more. You can learn about their products and their industry-leading application coverage. Where? At Motorrad.com. That's Motorrad.com. AAA Car Clinic, your calls when I get back. A 2013 Honda Accord came in the shop running rough, stalling, and a check engine light. The vehicle had originally been repaired by another shop. After a thorough diagnosis, we found the vehicle was generating a bad signal from the crankshaft position sensor. This seemed odd as it had just recently been replaced, but the scope doesn't lie. A bad waveform signal needs to be fixed. Our solution? A new crankshaft position sensor from Motorrad. A longtime leader for vehicle thermostats and caps, Motorrad now offers engine management products that are engineered to meet and or exceed OEM specifications. They're designed to perform under severe operating conditions and are resistant to extreme heat. We made the change and that fixed the car. Motorrad engine management products are manufactured in Tier 1 OEM facilities with top quality qualifications. They undergo comprehensive 100% in-line and end-of-line testing to ensure uncompromising quality. Learn more about Motorrad engine management products and other Motorrad solutions at Motorrad.com. In the Car Clinic service bay this week, a 2013 Ford Escape. The customer was having a hard time cranking the vehicle and had to jump-start the car several times in the weeks prior. They assumed it was a failing battery, but it turned out to be something else. After a close inspection, we found the alternator was supplying very low voltage to the system, which can never be fully charged. We charged the battery, tested it, and confirmed it was still good. We then replaced the alternator and performed a starting system test after verifying proper voltage from the alternator. The starter motor showed an abnormally high current draw, likely damaged from all the cranking of the vehicle with low voltage. Our solution? A new Motorcraft starter and alternator, so we could be sure to fix it right. Both parts were readily available at FordParts.com. Motorcraft parts offer OE-approved specifications and performance for all your Ford and Lincoln repairs. Motorcraft, right part, priced right, and you can learn more about Motorcraft starters, alternators, and other high-quality vehicle-specific parts at Motorcraft.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle loaded or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with today's program, this first hour. So, let's first back up a minute before I get into the AI, artificial intelligence. And so, what do you think, folks, about artificial intelligence? I mean, is there a concern? Are there fears that maybe some machine's going to take over and write its own code, and then that's not altogether impossible. We're in the process of gathering some data for one of our sponsors, for all of our sponsors, and some of that data is the numbers of downloads. So if you're a podcaster and you want to download the program, you can, of course, go to iTunes if you have the iPhone and download it from there. And the show is also available at YouTube, right, Fabio? They can go to our channel at YouTube.
That's correct.
Let's say again.
That's correct.
Okay. So our sponsor says, well, how many people? I mean, like for instance, Ford Motor Company which is one of our sponsors, and they're a sponsor of ours. Not because we went to them, they came to us, because in our service shop we offer our customers original equipment Ford Motor Company parts, fordparts.com. And you can go there, and there's all sorts of helpful diagrams and part numbers and those sorts of things too. So even if you're a do-it-yourselfer and you're trying to find a part for your Ford or Lincoln, you can go to fordparts.com and find the information that you need. But getting back to the artificial intelligence, so what do we know about AI? Or I think the question would be, what is it that we don't know about AI? But in our quest for and our actions, and then Jonathan and Fabio and I, or the three of us, are involved in gathering the data of our program. So you say, well, how do you do it? Well, there's some third-party plugins for that are, I guess you could call it AI. I mean, really, I don't know, Fabio, if that's AI or not. Artificial intelligence is, and you can define that, but basically, the conversation that I had with Karen last night was that, you know, she's mentioning, she's listening to, or she's talking with her mom, and it was about the yard, and about, you know, the hedges are growing, so I need a hedge clipper. Now, there's nobody in the house except Alexa, and she did not say Alexa's name, but she, and this is true because my wife feels the same way, but that she says they're listening to everything that we say. Now, I mean, I don't believe that. I think you have to trigger that machine. Of course, that machine has an open mic, like this is an open mic. So yeah, the machine can hear, and then it otherwise you couldn't say, Alexa, you know, tune into music, or I want to hear the Eagles, or what have you. But the bottom line is, and this is a true story, she was talking with her mom or someone on the phone about she guess she had to go out and buy hedge clippers. And this true story, 24 hours later, she's on the internet looking for something. She never had searched, never typed in hedge clippers. This true story. And a pop-up came up in her browser from Google about hedge clippers. Now, that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. So what does that mean? Well, it means that they're well, I guess they're listening. I guess I don't know. I didn't have any, and it wasn't a question that she had of me. It was just a statement that she had made, and I found that so very interesting. And when you think about it, you know, even though we do have to trigger Alexa, at least to get a response, but Alexa is listening all the time. And I think that's so interesting because there are conversations, of course, the privacy of your own home is a private thing, right? Hey, folks, there is no such thing as privacy. I mean, you know, we're all tracked, your phones. And what triggered this conversation, and I hope I'm not boring you because that's not my intent, but it's a fact of life. Technology in and of itself is nothing great. It's how we use the technology to enhance our lives. And so I have in front of me the modern, elegant, expressed in confidence BMW and their new Shy-Tech. What is Shy-Tech? Well, that's an innovative technology virtually invisible, but always available. And I have a picture of the car here. It looks like an i3, which is a kind of a weird-looking automobile. But it's an autonomous, or not autonomous. I don't like to use that term. It's a self-driving automobile, and that's closer than you all think it is. And am I for self-driving automobiles? Yes, I think, I know that a self-driving automobile would reduce and save lives. Well, what else would it do? Well, would it put Uber out of business? No. Or Lyft? No. Or any of those other taxis? No. I just don't believe that we will see the day. I certainly won't see it in my lifetime. But even if I was was born today, I don't believe that I would see where AI does everything for us. But I will say this. Now, this is really interesting. Let me give you the number, and I'd love to hear your input if you have any questions. But I'm going to share some information that I know to be factual. 888 Car Clinic. Hannah will take your calls. 888-227-2546. So this lady from New York, Karen, has a relative that works in Silicon Valley, and this relative was at her home and started to share information about his beliefs, and a lot of it, was, and I won't go politically where it was, except that this relative told her, and then he had a 4-year son. Now get this, Fabio and Jonathan and folks, this relative that works in Silicon Valley, and I won't mention for what company, but we all know the company, will not allow his 4-year-old son to use any electronics, makes him write in cursor, and will not. This is a true story. Will not. So if I mean that's kind of strange, don't you think? Well, I don't think that it's strange, because it's like so many of us. I don't know if what your profession is and what your jobs are. Those of you who are tuned in, but if you're a doctor, I mean, if you're a technician, and what's a technician? Well, a lab tech in the medical industry, or a certified master technician. During the hardship of and the on-the-job OJT, on-the-job training, and all the courses and all the rigors that we all go through in our profession, sometimes we work so hard and so for so long that when we have children, we say, well, I don't want little Tommy or Mary to be a mechanic. I want her to be a doctor and a lawyer. I mean, that's fact. I mean, even to this day, there's a 75,000 jobs a year shortage of automotive technicians. So make no mistake about it. If you think it's expensive to fix your car today, it will only cost more tomorrow. Because number one, even though the AI is bringing in more do-it-for-me's, and I don't mean the do-it-for-me for replacing and changing your own oil. I'm talking about driving my car for me, and the push-a button and the door opens. I mean, that's already available. Automatic parking. I mean, those are things that are really, really way cool, and definitely will make our lives easier and make us. I mean, there's nothing more stressful when you're trying to park a car and people behind you are waiting, and traffic's backed up, and you back up and you hit the curb and the angle's not right, and I mean, you're in that. We've all been there, right? And so how dumb that feels. But I'll tell you, today with a dip down mirror where you put it in reverse and the right mirror dips down so you can see the curb, and then your bells and whistles and warning buzzers, and then your backup cameras, then you can actually make yourself look pretty good when you back it in the first time, turn the wheel, turn to the right, and go one fell swoop. You back up, turn, make the turns, and pull forward. Those are all driver's aids. And speaking of drivers, when I come back, I'm going to share with you, because it's Super Bowl, of course, tomorrow. I'm going to, and people will be partying, party hardy. There's a chance that you may have a little too much to drink. So when I come back, I'm going to share with you a program that AAA has that I really admire, and I think that for everyone who's listening, it'll be great for you to know. In the meantime, 888-227-2546 when I come back. entertainment systems, backup cameras, start-stop technology. Just a few of the electrical demands we put on today's cars. AGM or absorbent glass mat batteries are up to the challenge. They're precision engineered to offer the ultimate combination of power, durability, and reliability. What affects battery performance? Harsh climates, frequent stopping, rush hour traffic, and aggressive driving all put wear on your battery. With its compressed cell design and glass mat separators, AGM batteries are built to excel in these types of conditions. Learn more about AGM advantages at autobatteries.com. Using Hest high-energy solvent technology, Berryman's B12 Chem Tool dissolves gum, varnish, and carbon deposits in the fuel system to help restore lost power and peak performance. But don't take our word for it. After his 98 Camry failed emissions, a local mechanic told William he could get back on the road for around $300. He instead opted for Berryman B12 Chem Tool, and 1 tank of gas later, his vehicle passed. Learn more about Berryman's B12 Chem Tool and other great products at berrymanproducts.com. This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This week, a 2014 Honda Odyssey with 80,000 miles came in the shop with 2 complaints. The owner said she felt 2 vibrations. First one when she braked for stops. Second vibration was driving at road speeds over bumps or crossing over bridges. She said her van simply didn't drive like it did when it was new. After road testing and inspection, we found worn-out pads, warped rotors, bad front struts, and leaking rear shocks. All easy fixes. We reached out to our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional, ordered Monroe shocks and brake best pads and rotors. After all repairs, the technician road tested the van again. Wow, even he was surprised. Vibration gone, brakes smooth as glass, tech happy, owner happy, all good. Another great reason our first call for parts is O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better parts, better prices every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
Higher, 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100.
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad you tuned in today. Every Saturday from 10 till noon, we come to you from the center of the automotive universe. I have a rundown of this past weekend. That was the 58th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Terry Sabiston, Senior Motorsports Director there for WNDB 11:30 a.m., 11:50 a.m. Pardon me. How long does that take? 28 years we've been on 11:50 a.m., so won't forget that. Anyway, I'll share with you some of the winners and some of the disappointing. I'm a little disappointed in one of the also rans. But I won't go there yet. So I'll save that, and then I'm going to share the Super Bowl opportunity for you if you've had a little too much to drink with AAA. But first, let's go to Nebraska and take a call, and then we'll take your calls, or Hannah will, at 888-227-2546. That's 888-227-2546. John from Nebraska, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Well, thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, sir. How are you?
Good.
What do you think about AI?
I have a. Pardon?
What's your take on artificial intelligence? Does that bother you? Does it and self-driving automobiles and automatic this and automatic that, and or is Alexa really listening to everything that you say in your house?
I I hope not. My wife hopes not.
Yeah. Well, my wife made me unplug mine.
Kind of scary.
Yeah, it is kind of scary. You know, it is kind of scary. But anyway, let's talk cars. What can I do for you today?
Well, I have a 2005 Honda CR-V, and ever since we've owned it, we've watched the gas mileage, and it's always been 14 to 16 miles per gallon in town.
Mm-hmm.
And I meet other people that have the same vehicle, same color even. And I'd say, what's your gas mileage? And they'll say, 24 or 26, somewhere in there. So I've put new spark plugs in. I ran carburetor, ejector cleaner through it, the best stuff on the market, and it had no change. And so I've wondered, what can I do?
Well, number one, has the check engine light ever come on?
Yeah, I believe it has.
And did you?
I don't think it's.
And it doesn't have to be on now. There's I can give you a really great answer here, because even if the check in, and of course, okay, today is the check engine light on, or the last week or so, or month.
Well, this is my wife's vehicle. I'm not allowed.
I'm not allowed to drive it. How did I know that? Yeah. No. Well, when it breaks, you will be allowed to fix it. So.
Yeah.
So just remind her that, you know. So now I get a bullet thrown at me. But here's the bottom line, though, John. Let's just say, for example, the check engine light is not on. You know, I get from you that it has appeared at times and gone away. Even if the check engine light had never come on, I mean, there's a self-test. I'm not talking about when you turn the key on, all the lights test, and so you'll know that all the bulbs are working. That's a given. But the computer measures the fuel trim. So remember that term, fuel trim. And actually, this would be really cool for your wife. You take your car into a service shop. This is what I want you to do, and I would recommend either the Honda dealer or an ASE certified technician shop, and that means a shop that employs ASE certified technicians, master technicians, and these are technicians that, number one, have the mindset and the tenacity to get training. And for the different levels of training, there's ASE level 1, 2, 3. There are 8. You have to, before you become a master ASE technician, you have to have cleared and passed 8 different certifications. And those 8 different certifications are every aspect of the automobile, from suspension to chassis to electronics to charging to engine. You get, in other words, the whole body of the car, right? So that's a given. And here's what you're gonna ask them to do, or even your wife could. As I said, this would be really cool, because the folks in my industry, when a customer comes in and understands the lingo, you know, if your wife were to go in and say, you know, poor gas mileage on my car, check engine light's not on, would you please use your scan tool, and not a handheld deal, but your scan tool, and check the fuel trim and see if it's within the specifications. And if she were to say that, it would be like you walking into a doctor's office and say, you know, it's some doctor's terms that we never understand. The doctor would look at you and say, hey, this person's been reading too much, or, you know, what's your background? And the reason I say that, anyway, so that's kind of a fun thing. And it will also really get the attention of the customer care provider, the service desk person, or the technician that she talks to or you talk to. Because, and here's why, fuel trim is a recorded memory report of the air-fuel ratio changes that the computer has performed over time. Now, what does that mean? And then there's an analogy that I use. And let's say if I come to you and I'm a lawn service, and you have a nice lawn there in your home in Nebraska, and I sign a year's contract. I give you a good deal on a year's contract. And let's say that it's instead of January, February. Oh, welcome to February, February 1st day. So let's say that it's July, and the grass needs to be cut every week. I mean, and all of a sudden every week, and then. But now let's say it's December. Well, your grass doesn't need to be cut every week, every 3 weeks. Why? For obvious reasons. The sun, growth, and all those sorts of things. So if you sign a contract with me as your lawn service annually, I'll give you a better price versus just 4 months a year, because those 4 months or 5 months, depending on where you live in the north or south climate, the speed of the grass. Anyway, here's the bottom line, how that connects to your car. At the end of the year, you will have paid for annual service, which is 52 weeks of service. But the lawn service is not going to cut your grass or come out every week. They're going to come out more in the summer and fewer times in the wintertime. So you could look at, and after a year's of use, you could look at the number of weeks, and you could figure out how much you actually paid per week if you divide the total figure by 52. And let's just say that you paid $100 a week. I mean, you wouldn't. I mean, so that's 52 weeks, it's $5,200. So you'd say, well, gosh, he didn't even come out for 3 weeks, and I paid for 3 weeks. You see where I'm going there? Or you understand what I'm saying? Okay. The fuel trim sees a lean or rich mixture. Lean means too much air, not enough fuel. Rich means too much fuel, not enough air. Lean or rich. And that's what oxygen sensors read in the catalytic converter. The one up front. There's two. There's one in the back, there's one in the front of the catalytic converter. So the pre-cat, which means the exhaust oxygen sensor, which measures through osmosis the amount of oxygen in the exhaust system, will tell the computer you're running too lean. There's too much oxygen here. And then the computer will make an adjustment and open the injectors more often, or a bigger pulse width. So if it's running too rich, it does the opposite. Well, if all of a sudden, like your grass, you put a supercharger on your grass in the summertime, and you really put this fertilizer, and you had tons of rain in, say, 2 days, by Friday, you look at your grass that was cut last Friday, and it's grown 2.5 inches. I mean, okay, so that means that person would have to trim that grass and really cut that and bag that lawn, because it really grew a lot. And if it grew that way every week, there would be some reason for it to do that. And that's the same thing for your car. If your car's and computer has to adjust the air-fuel ratio out of its normal limit, then it would give you a report. So your car may have believe it or not, is using too much fuel, but it could have a vacuum leak that would be sending a lean signal. It could even have an exhaust leak, and get this, in front of the oxygen sensor, or a bad oxygen sensor. But usually an O2 sensor that's bad, the check engine light will come on. But if you had a vacuum leak in front of the oxygen sensor, that would make the oxygen sensor read too much air, and it would tell the computer more fuel. And your engine loves more fuel. Engines love a lot of fuel. They don't like to be weaned, as we say. They like a lot of fuel. But the engine will not deliver the miles per gallon if it is having to continue to add more fuel on a normal drive cycle. And one more thing, so simple. You could have a bad thermostat, and if the thermostat was causing the engine to run 180 degrees instead of 210 degrees, the computer would say, well, an engine that's at 180 degrees and the air temperature is at this temperature and the throttle opening, let's adjust the air-fuel ratio so it's doing its job, because it knows, or it believes, that the engine is not fully warmed up. And to that end, a great way to lose gas mileage, which we all don't want to do, is to take the thermostat totally out. Not only will that wear the engine out more quickly, but it will drop the miles per gallon 6 to 8 to 10 miles. I mean, just by removing the thermostat, because the computer says, oh, the engine's not warm yet. And John, one more thing, and I don't want to you following what I'm saying?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. So the main thing here is the computer would continue. Now, today, the computers are so sophisticated that there are other factors that are involved, and the computer measures the length of time it takes to go from ambient temperature to operating temperature. And if you've got all of your sensors are reading correctly, but the engine temperature sensor is reading poorly, or out of specs, then the computer will insert its own reading for temperature sensor, and it will mask that problem. More when I come back. Don't go away. It's very interesting stuff here. A 2015 Ford Escape recently came into the shop, 120,000 miles and going strong, but it was starting to hesitate, and the customer also complained of declining fuel economy. This 2-liter turbocharged engine is GDI, or gas direct injection, and special maintenance is needed in certain areas, particularly the fuel system. We suspected carbon buildup, and sure enough, using a borescope through the spark plug hole, there was definite evidence of carbon buildup. GDI engines are different in the way they inject fuel, and it can create some issues with repair and maintenance. That's why it's important to use products rated for GDI, like Berryman's 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kit. Each step of the process is designed with GDI engines in mind. We use the kit, and after 2 weeks on the road, the car is performing noticeably better, and MPG has improved a bit. Learn more about Berryman's 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kits and other great products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment, folks. We're talking with John in Nebraska about an 05 Honda CRV, and he gets like 15, 16 miles per gallon, and everyone else is getting 20, 25, and whatever with their cars. And we're talking about the computers, and of course and you can really get I can get too in depth in the computers too quickly, but John, I do want to just share this with you. And here's what we face in the industry today. So you're going to take your car into a service shop, as I recommend, and you're going to ask them to check your gas mileage. They're going to be a little hesitant to get involved in gas mileage because sometimes cars get really bad gas mileage, and it's the driver, it's not the car. That's true, and I know this because I can drive my car, aggressively, and we all know that. I understand this is your wife's car, so what you're going to ask for is this person or your wife, if she wants to have some fun, and say, I'd like you to run a scan test with your scan tool on my engine and my computer in my car to determine the fuel trim. That's all you got to remember, a fuel trim, like you got a trim on your hair, fuel trim. Okay. And that fuel trim in every car that since 96 and later has a fuel trim recorded. And it's a record of how many adjustments and what the tolerance of that adjustment was. And if the window of adjustment is 10%, if it's too lean and you got to bump the fuel 10%, or if it's too rich and you have to lean out the engine, which takes the fuel away 10%, as long as it's within that 10% window, then it's okay, because as your driving changes, throttle change and temperature changes, I mean, that's normal. That's what the computer's there to tune your engine as you drive. However, if it's up 12, 14, 15%, then that will, and even if the check engine light won't come on, that will still be there in that computer, and it will allow and enable, not allow, it will enable the trained technician to look further into the system to determine what's causing the computer to act so wildly, to make such wild adjustments, because it should not do that. And the bottom line, just like in your house, you put the thermostat at 70 degrees, and all of a sudden you look up and it's 80, 78 degrees in the house. You say, well, what, the air conditioner's not working? Or vice versa, the heater is not working, if it's 68, and supposed to be 72. So there's a threshold there. And that threshold is within a couple of degrees at your home. I have a digital a thermostat in my home that I can control from my phone, and it's sensitive to within 1 degree. And if I've got it set for 70 and the house is 69, the heater will come on. And so the same thing is true for fuel trim in an automobile. And then there's one more thing that I want to share with you that I think is interesting. We all have heard that you go to parts houses and they read, your codes, everything. Oh, I can read a code. I can get an app for my phone and read the code. You get a plug-in and read the code. There's a company now that and I forget the name of the company because I want to forget it, but I don't remember the name of the company. But they're selling it is a farce. They're selling a tool for a little bit of money, and it says, never pay a mechanic again. Well, we all have mechanic horror stories. So you plug this into your car, and it tells you what's wrong with your car. That is false advertising. Nothing that you plug into a car tells you what's wrong. It just gives you a report. It's like I've said before, the difference between a professional $6,000, $10,000 notebook that has the proper software to read the computer in your car is what we use in our shop, and we have more than one of them. But a code reader, is a $20 tool, and all it reads is the code, if there's a code there. It will not read fuel trim, by the way, as I said, because that's going into, in all cars, and folks, this is interesting to know and good information for you. All cars today electronically have gatekeepers. A gatekeeper keeps out the kids and the wannabes and the do-it-yourselfers. The gatekeeper says, you can't come into my electronic architecture because you may get in there and start fooling around and make changes and cause problems and cause me to run out of my emissions specifications where I was programmed. That's why you have to be careful when you buy a reprogrammer, a tuner kit. And I use tuner kits, but I know which ones to use and which ones not to use because, in fact, I've got an article here that I'll share later on when I have time about fines that the EPA has fined those companies that make these off-road tuner kits that change emissions and make your car illegal to drive on the street. Does it run better? Yeah, it runs better. But it defeats some of the emissions, and you can't do that. So I said all that to say this, and I'll say this in closing with you, John. The fuel trim reading will give you immediate information and your technician that's needed to determine why you're getting 30% less gas mileage than you should be getting. So anyway, any questions?
No, that should cover that. But when you have a vehicle that you can't do that on, say I have a Geo Metro that's a '94, and they've told me, you know, that it's too old a vehicle to scan,
right?
And you have fuel problems. You know, some people would be envious. I get 31 miles to a gallon, but on a Geo Metro, it should be 10 to 15 more miles per gallon on a vehicle like that. What do you do when you have an older vehicle?
Well, you take it to a shop that knows and that has dealt with cars like that, and that's where the difference comes in between the technician and a mechanic. A mechanic is a person that can replace or water pumps and take cylinder heads off and put gaskets on or put new engines in or what have you. A technician, which is what we have become today, understands the mechanical part of the vehicle. And John, that's a great question, because I can tell you, you can find a lot of mechanics, but you can't find a lot of technicians. As I mentioned at the show, there's 75,000 jobs open right now in the technician field, you know, but when you go for your interview, they said, "Do you have any ASE certifications?" No, I never did that because they weren't interested in their trade enough. You wouldn't go to a doctor that didn't have the degree, and so the same thing's true for cars. So, but here's the beauty part about a company that is truly a full-service automotive repair and maintenance facility, whether it's a dealership or independent. There's always one technician in those buildings, in those businesses, that's been there a long time and understands both the mechanical problems and design of the vehicle and the electronic. And that's what I pride my master technician, Johnny Bars. He continues to learn, and he's 60 years old. He's 60. He turns 60 in July, I think 17. I know that because mine's the 16th, and I think his birthday is the 17th, which is my brother's. And he'll be 61 years old. And just this week, he came in and had a school. And he had a vehicle in our shop that was, as he said, eating his lunch. And it was a Chevrolet that had an airbag light issue on. And try as he could not determine what the problem was. And what the problem was is that someone had the steering wheel and the airbag and the wiring off, and unplug the plug. And after you plug a plug into today's cars, there's a plastic clip that you press in. It's like a wedge. And that plastic clip was not there. And the plastic clip is used not to lock the plug together. The plastic clip was used to depress 4 wires that trigger the airbag so that it would work properly. And without that clip in place, the airbag light came on and the professional scan tool read high resistance. And what was so interesting about this was that the the class instructor the night before was so interested in Johnny's problem that he came to our shop the next day and worked with Johnny and the two of them. Now here you've got a lot of, just like having, MB Anderson, Cancer Center, or UAB, to have two of their highest trained and experienced doctors that come in and save your loved one or you. So they both worked together and found that this plastic clip that was the size of a fingernail, the size of a fingernail was omitted or gone. And what that clip did was it not only locked the male-female plug together, but it was longer than the depth of the hole of the slot. And when you pushed it in, it took 4 wires that were all together and pushed them apart and made the system whole. And so and that's a little unusual, because we all see with today's cars, when we unplug a male-female connector, there's either a banjo that holds it in place. I mean, you don't just plug it in like a wall and unplug it. It's not a friction lock. You plug it in and there's a clip that holds those things in place, because engines vibrate, and the heat and the cold and all those sorts of things, and they have to be weather sealed too. Although this is inside the car, but under the hood, the O2 sensor. The early years, the O2 sensors used to go bad because, and Mercedes was the world's worst, because the air conditioner drain would drain right on top of the exhaust, and that's why you would see, at that time we didn't have stainless steel exhaust, you would see rust in your driveway, because when you stopped your car and the air conditioner dripped and drained, which is normal, it would run down over the O2 sensor and over the exhaust, and the exhaust would rust, and you'd see rust stains on your driveway. And so the manufacturers started to make, and they couldn't make a wire that runs from one component all the way through to the computer, because it has to be serviceable. And so that's why you have male-female plugs, and there are rubber O-rings, tiny little, around your little finger, tiny O-rings that are weather seals for those plugs. In fact, some of them are so tight that you have to use a lubricant to get them to pop in place. And so it's really very interesting. I didn't mean to get all technical, but, well, yes, I did. Anyway, that's what I do. Anyway, hey, John, thanks for calling, and glad you called. And so, folks, I hope that you were interested enough in that rather long dissertation, if you will, as to why you should have a car fuel trim checked that will give you the information you need to help you on gas mileage. And that same person, John, that's going to check your wife's CRV, if he's a technician, will be able to perform some hands-on individual test of the components, individual test. He won't go to a data port like you can on your CRV, but he can go to each individual component that is part of the system and perform readouts from those systems, including engine operating temperature and such. Hey, thanks so much for your call. I enjoyed talking with you and explaining with some of the challenges that we have in the business today. Hope I've helped.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, safe driving on Super Bowl Sunday. How can you party hardy during Super Bowl and avoid, and here's what you want to avoid, drunk driving, a DUI, and you can arrive alive at your final destination? Well, the easy way, you choose a designated driver. Well, I mean, that's all well and good. But I will tell you, I've known a lot of people that didn't think they had too much to drink, and even if they did, there were people riding with them, they didn't want to drive their cars. Well, so how do you avoid that? Well, AAA has done a great job. You can go to AAA.com/tow2go, and There's no charge. You can let AAA come and get you, even if you're not a AAA member. This is really cool. It's amazing. It's a confidential service. Well, not any longer it's confidential because I'm announcing it today on the Car Clinic. It's available in Florida, Georgia, Iowa, Minnesota, or Michigan, rather, I'm sorry, North Dakota, Tennessee, Wisconsin, and parts of Iowa. And from today, or yesterday actually, Friday, January the 31st, through Monday morning, the February the 3rd at 6 a.m., if you drink too much, you can call 855-2-TOW-2-GO. Tow to go, AAA. That's all for this hour. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This week, a 2014 Honda Odyssey with 80,000 miles came in the shop with 2 complaints. The owner said she felt 2 vibrations. First one when she braked for stops. Second vibration was driving at road speeds over bumps or crossing over bridges. She said her van simply didn't drive like it did when it was new. After road testing and inspection, we found worn-out pads, warped rotors, bad front struts, and leaking rear shocks. All easy fixes. We reached out to our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional, ordered Monroe shocks and brake best pads and rotors. After all repairs, the technician road tested the van again. Wow, even he was surprised. Vibration gone, brakes smooth as glass. Tech happy, owner happy, all good. Another great reason our first call for parts is O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P-Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Time for another edition of Cooling System Q&A brought to you by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. Why is the thermostat so important? Cooling system regulates engine temperature and helps prevent overheating. While it's comprised of several components, the thermostat plays a critical role with efficient cooling system operation. It must regulate coolant flow properly to maintain a specific engine operating temperature in addition to providing quick warm-up. Motorrad's new stainless steel thermal element UltraStat is unmatched for corrosion resistance. Its revolutionary Reax wax mixture provides quicker reaction time.
They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace,
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, live via ABC Radio Satellite Services. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I'm laughing because if you had a car question, I'll tell you the last hour it was such an interesting conversation, at least it was to yours truly. It was about gas mileage and about the electronic controls of your engines and how all that works and the mistakes that can be made between a mechanic and a technician. Because today we don't need to be mechanics, we need to be technicians. But if you wanted the best of the best, you'd want a technician working on your automobile who had been a mechanic. But it's hard to find one. In other words, that means a guy's got to be 50 to 60 years old. Well, guess what? The average age of technician in service shops, 47. 47 years of age. Where are the young guys coming in? The young girls coming in? Yeah, that's a good question. We'll get into that a little bit later, and also we'll talk about some interesting facts from Daytona. I'm disappointed in one of the cars, and I'll share that with you, and then I'll take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part this morning by K-Seal, a one-step pour-in solution designed to stop coolant leaks and help prevent future leaks. You can find K-Seal at fine part stores nationwide like Advanced Auto Parts. Don't just seal your cooling system, K-Seal it. And don't just sit there wondering if you have a question about your car. Call Bobby Likis at 888-227-2546 when I come back. Time for another edition of Cooling System Q&A brought to you by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. Why is the thermostat so important? Cooling system regulates engine temperature and helps prevent overheating. While it's comprised of several components, the thermostat plays a critical role with efficient cooling system operation. It must regulate coolant flow properly to maintain a specific engine operating temperature in addition to providing quick warm-up. Motorrad's new stainless steel thermal element UltraStat is unmatched for corrosion resistance. Its revolutionary Reax wax mixture provides quicker reaction time. The UltraStat also features bilinear valve technology, which prevents thermal shock to cooling system components, gradually increasing coolant flow versus instant maximum flow found in traditional thermostats. The UltraStat precisely controls engine temperature to ensure the lowest emission standards, maximum fuel efficiency, and terrific interior cabin comfort. The Motorrad UltraStat line is the perfect thermostat upgrade option with coverage for over 160 million vehicles on the road today. Motorrad, leading the way in coverage and service. Folks, a 91 Lumina came into the shop this week with a 3.1-liter V6 leaking coolant. The customer said there was coolant coming from the front of the engine and was worried it may need costly repair. After diagnosis, we confirmed it had a failing head gasket. Checking the labor guide for times, adding the cost of the head gasket set, plus coolant, oil, and filter, and miscellaneous, the repair would definitely cost more than this vehicle was worth, not the holiday present our customer was hoping for. So we provided another option, K-Seal. K-Seal's a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging and help prevent future leaks. One bottle completely sealed the leak within 10 minutes, and our customer was very happy. K-Seal is available at fine retailers everywhere, like O'Reilly Auto Parts. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Well, I'm just delighted that you tuned in this morning, and the phones are lighting up, 888-227-2546. So we're going to go directly to the phones. But I do want to remind you the Super Bowl is here. And, well, it will be. And it's Super Bowl Sunday. And so how can you party hardy during the Super Bowl and avoid a DUI? Well, you can have a designated driver, but what if that's not convenient? What if there are no designated drivers in your area or at your party? Well, you can have AAA. You can call AAA. Even if you're not a AAA member, this is an amazing confidential service that's available in Florida and Georgia and Michigan and North Dakota, Tennessee, Wisconsin, and parts of Iowa. And from yesterday, Friday, January 31st, through Monday morning, February the 3rd at 6 a.m., if you drink, you can call 855-2-TOW-TO-GO. And a AAA tow truck will transport you and your vehicle home or somewhere safe within a 10-mile radius at no charge, courtesy of AAA. It's amazing service. Hats off to AAA for helping us to enjoy and have fun and still be safe on Super Bowl weekend. Folks, for more information, because you won't remember the number, you can go to AAA.com/tow-to-go. No numerals, the word tow, T-O-GO. That's AAA.com/tow-to-go. And there is a great service for you. Okay, we're going to take your phones and your calls at Car Clinic. So let's go to Chris, who was first in. Chris, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Good morning.
Thanks for taking my call again, Bobby, and for sharing your vast information.
Thank you. You're welcome. What can I do for you?
Well, a general question. I seem to remember when turbocharged cars hit the market, there was an instruction to let the car idle before you shut it off so the bearings in the turbocharger wouldn't coke up. And that's kind of made me reluctant to think about a used car with a turbocharger. Has that practice been eliminated due to technology, or is that still recommended?
You have a great memory, and the answer is yes. That practice, no, that practice is no longer necessary because the number one, the bearings. And of course, they didn't have bearings at that time. They used floating bushings, which are that's a very interesting design. A bushing, normally you have a case, and then you have a bushing that's pressed into the case, which would be the turbocharger case, and the bushing would be, or standard anything case, and the bushing is pressed in, and then the shaft spins, and the shaft has grooves in it, or the bushing has grooves for lubrication. In a turbocharger of older days that you're talking of, what they did was and the tolerances are very close, they had a bushing that wasn't pressed into the case. The bushing would turn. The shaft would turn. So if you had 100,000 RPM, which turbochargers turn 100,000 RPM, and you have oil floating through, the oil does two things. Of course, it lubes and it cools the bushing. But because the bushing turns on the shaft, the 50,000 RPM is reduced. The 100,000 RPM is reduced to 50,000 RPM because the shaft turns 100, and then the bushing's turning half that speed, or because it's coming along with it, and so that helped to add life to the bushing, to the bushing and the turbocharger. But we replaced a lot of turbochargers, considering the fact that there are so many turbochargers on cars these days, and we'll continue to see the increase. They now created special bearings for turbochargers, and to your point, water-cooled the thermostat. With thermostat operation, water-cool the turbocharger and post-cool the turbocharger. So when you get out of the car and you get to your destination, you've been driving, you turn the car off and you walk away, whereas you used to let the car idle, then so the turbocharger is not running. And there's not a lot of exhaust flowing through the turbocharger because there's not a lot of exhaust coming out because you get the engines idling. Then that would cool down the housing and the shaft, and all the oil would cool it down too. That's no longer necessary because they're automatic devices now that flow coolant that cool that area. So the short answer is no, that practice is not eliminated, not necessary. And I will tell you this, do not concern yourself whatsoever with the longevity of a turbocharger or buying a car with a turbocharger. It is the most economical way for, it used to be 17 pounds and 40% increase in horsepower. Given that we use lighter materials, probably the whole plumbing, the whole 9 yards is 15 pounds today for a 40 to 50% and even higher increase in power. So we've got a little, it's called engine power density. We got a little 3-cylinder engine or 6-cylinder engine that matches the power of 8-cylinder, or the 3-cylinder, that 4-cylinder matches the power of the V6, because it has a turbocharger that increases its power by forcing the air into the piston where the power is made. Any questions?
Well, no, I just, because you see such incredible horsepower numbers for such small engines, I figure you've got to pay a price somewhere. And I remember, again, if my memory serves me, that in the old days, you used to be able to buy an aftermarket timer, which would keep oil, I think, flowing over the bushings for a period of time after you shut the car off. So I guess that's kind of gone the way of the buggy whip as well.
Yeah, that's buggy whip. That's a great analogy. You're exactly right, Chris. Time marches on, and I will tell you this. And I know we have other calls, but this is important that you know. I was speaking to a gentleman last hour, the first hour of today's 2-hour broadcast, and about gas mileage, and basically about the computer that tunes the car, and the computer sees the throttle position and feels the weight of the car, measures the weight of the car, the speed of the car, which gear you're in, and what engine temp and what the ambient temp, and then what the RPM is. And through all of these sensory inputs, tunes the engine, puts in the right amount of fuel, because it measures the air, and it measures the temperature, the density of the air too. Well, what if the thermostat in your car is bad, and your car is running 160 degrees instead of 210 degrees? The cooler the engine runs, the worse the gas mileage. And so the computer would automatically think the engine was in the warm-up stage, and so it would put more fuel in. And so you say, well, gosh, that's bad. That means you better have a good thermostat. And the answer is that's true. But here's the point, and this is what's interesting about technicians. Unless you have the right scan tool, cars are so smart that the computer sees, oh, wait a minute, this car's been running for 15 minutes and it's only at 160 degrees. There has to be a problem in the cooling system. Let's plug in a number that make this engine run correctly. And the computer will plug in 195 degrees. So when the technician hooks up his scan tool and says, I'm going to check the temperature of this engine digitally, the temperature reads 195.
Wow.
And so how do you diagnose a bad thermostat? That's the difference between an OEM factory scan tool and an aftermarket generic scan tool. And therein lies where the real challenge is, because a mechanic technician is scratching his head saying, well, this engine's not running 100. I'm using my infrared measure device. It's running 100, and I get 185, and yet the engine is saying it's running 195.
Wow.
And then you can unplug the sensor. Well, true, the check engine light would come on if you unplugged it. But if you unplug it and still see 195 degrees, you say, hey, wait a minute, that's a false figure. But the computer's so smart, and I opened last hour's program because I had a conversation last night with a good friend, Karen, about AI, artificial intelligence. So there is AI example of a computer masking a problem, and you continue to drive your car, it doesn't run right and it doesn't work right, but you don't know because the computer is doing its job to try to make up amends for parts that aren't. It is amazing. It is. Hey, Chris, thank you so much for your call, and always love to have.
Thank you for the answer.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Let's go from Pennsylvania to Texas. take a call from Steve. Steve, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, good morning, Bobby. How are you?
Terrific. How about yourself?
Hey, not bad. I'm just running down the freeway at the present time. But let me tell you about the problem. First of all, go Chiefs tomorrow. That's my hometown, so Kansas City is going to do it tomorrow.
Oh, well, you know, as I've been asked this week, there's that pesky break coming up. But you know what? Steve, you stay right there. Jeff, you stay right there. And folks, don't you go anywhere. I'll be back after this commercial break. In the service bay this week, an 05 Chevy Silverado. The truck was experiencing a front brake noise and a pull to the left when stopping. We performed a thorough inspection and found the front pads completely worn out on the driver's side. The passenger side looked to be okay, but we noticed a loose wheel bearing on that side. Why would the pads be worn on just one side? It was a seized driver's side brake caliper. So we replaced the pads and rotors on the front along with the driver's side caliper. Also replaced the passenger side wheel bearing. Our parts choice for the repair, Omnicraft. With today's complex vehicles, not every part works or works well. Quality, fit, and function is a belief system in my shop. Approved and backed by Ford Motor Company for most non-Ford and non-Lincoln vehicles, Omnicraft quality brake parts will help ensure vehicle reliability and longevity. Learn more about Omnicraft brakes and other Omnicraft parts at omnicraftautoparts.com. Omnicraft Auto Parts, backed by Ford. Being car care aware is important all year round, but winter is an especially critical time as harsher conditions can strain your automobile. Here are a few items to check, courtesy of the Car Care Council. Winter means shorter days and longer nights. It's a great time to make sure interior and exterior lights are working properly, and don't forget to make sure your headlights are properly aimed. This item is often overlooked. The best way to warm up your engine in the winter is to drive gently at the start. Make sure your ice scraper and snow brush are accessible, and replenish your emergency kit. Jumper cables, a flashlight, blankets, extra clothes, bottled water, non-perishable food, and a first aid kit with any medication that may be needed. It may seem like a lot, but better safe than sorry. For more great tips, videos, and recommended service schedules, visit carcare.org. And while you're there, order a free copy of the Car Care Guide for your glove compartment. That's carcare.org.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip
from Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking with Steve in Texas. He's got an 06 Chevy pickup. He's driving down the interstate, as I understand. Steve, you still with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's talk cars.
Okay. First of all, this happened about 4 months ago, driving from Tyler to Dallas, where when I pulled up at the airport parking, I noticed a noise coming from the front end of the vehicle, and I thought it might be one of the tightener pulleys for the belt.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and jumped on the plane, came back a few days later. Truck ran fine, got back to Tyler. Well, yesterday I had to run to Houston, 240 miles, and park the truck for a few hours. I come back out, and it's making the same noise. So I ran to a shop thinking that it might have been one of my idler pulleys.
Right.
And they said no, that it sounds like a stuck lifter. Well, I've only got about 138,000 miles. I've always had the oil changed properly. But with it coming and going, and it's got the 4.8, the small V8 in it, what do I need to do to try to unstick this lifter?
Well, number one, I don't know that that's the issue. You know, a tensioner has a different rattle to it. I mean, not that you're the expert, and you know, you just thought it was a tensioner, and it probably is not, because a tensioner that's bad is bad, and it's not going to get good. It's not going to go healthy and then sick again. You know, I mean, it'll be and also, if that tensioner were making a noise, the technician could easily, just using a spring-loaded, you know, to force back the tensioner, remove the belt and crank the engine. And if the noise is still there and there's nothing hooked to the crankshaft, you know, no alternator, no water pump, no air conditioner, you know, nothing that turns, no accessories, and you still have the noise, that pretty well indicates that, yeah, the noise is internal. And then, so that's what I would have done the first, unless it was obvious that it's an internal lifter noise. And lifters do have their own little, you know, like clack, 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 and it would be half the speed of the engine, because the rocker arms and the camshaft turns half the speed. If the engine's turning idling at 1,000 RPM, the camshaft's turning 500 RPM in the 4-cycle engine. So, having said that, the first thing, and then so now we know that it's not a tensioner because we took the belt off. And we know it's not a water pump or whatever because we took the belt off. We still have the noise. And then we listen to the rhythm of the noise and the speed of the engine, and we do that very easy to do, and we determine that, hey, this is not a rod knocking or a main bearing knock, because it's lighter and because it's half the speed of the engine. So it's obviously going to be a lifter or a rocker arm, which it could well be a rocker arm, although if it had a bad rocker, it wouldn't come and go, because if it's a worn out rocker, it would not come and go. It wouldn't heal itself. Whereas, and that leads us back to where you think you are, and it sounds like that you're on the right track, a lifter, because a lifter could come and go depending on if it's clogged or if the oiling system had debris in it. Even if you change the oil regularly, there's debris in an oil system, because there are chemicals in the oil, additives, that attract dirt. That's why when you drain the oil, it's black, because there are things in the oil that attract that dirt and debris, and that's why you change it, to get it out. You never can get it all out. Now, having said that, my concern, I have one question for you, and think about this before you answer. When you crank the vehicle up in the morning, after you've had your flight out of Houston or wherever, and you come back, or overnight at your home, has the oil pressure gauge ever been, in the last 10,000, 5,000 miles, erratic or slow to come up to pressure?
No.
Okay, good.
No, because I always keep an eye on
Yeah.
It's like right now, I pulled off the freeway and just sitting here to be safe talking to you.
Thank you.
As far as my oil pressure on the gauge, it's just a hair under 40.
Yeah.
Now, it jumps up to a little bit over 40 when, you know, I'm rolling at 75 miles an hour.
Exactly. Well, here's the easiest, here's the least expensive, least invasive option that you have, and it is it's a product that I use in my service shop where applicable, and it's provided by Berryman Products. And you if you're a listener from Tyler, Texas, you've heard me mention Berryman Products, but this particular product is called Berryman B60 Oil Rejuvenator. And so what I would recommend is for your next oil change, or how many miles on this oil is currently in the truck?
About 1,500 miles.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, I hate to waste oil, but it doesn't matter, because we want to do something to make sure this doesn't happen again as best we can. In other words, I would say wait till you had 5,000 miles because you don't want to throw good oil away. But in the big scheme of things, you don't want to wait until that lifter collapses and then it doesn't recover if that indeed is an oil situation. So you can find it O'Reilly Auto Parts. They are online, your choice. The Berryman Products B60 Oil Rejuvenator, and you add that to the crankcase. Even if the crankcase is full of oil, don't worry about it. Add that and then run the engine. I'd say run it 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and don't let it idle. Run it up to 3,000 RPM and hold it at 3,000 RPM for 30 seconds and then let it idle. And then goose it a couple of times. And then, because what you're doing is you're mixing and matching, you're exercising that engine. And then nail the throttle, but not to floorboard. You can floorboard it, but nail the throttle to one, but don't go over 3,000, 3,500 RPM, 4,000. Doesn't matter. You're not going to hurt the engine. And then what that will do is that will help to flush out and then drain the oil and put new oil back in it. And then that will help to flush out debris. And what it will do is it will actually, because of the additives within the Berryman B60 Oil Rejuvenator, it will add zinc and some other additives, and I don't know what all they put in there because I'm not privy to that, but there will be additives in that oil additive that are not in the oil that we buy for EPA mandate reasons, and that will, if that doesn't solve your problem, then you've got to go into the engine. But you don't want to do open hood surgery until you try the easy way out. And so all I'd ask you to do is to try it and then and drive it a week or two and then call me back and let me know how that worked for you. Will you do that?
Okay. Yeah. So should I go ahead, since I'm only 1,500 miles into an oil change right now, go ahead and put some in now, or should I wait until I have the oil change and then do it?
Oh, I would put it in now, and I would run it 30 minutes, and then I would change the oil. So you're not going to put it in and continue to drive. You're going to add it, and you're going to use it to for its lubricity and its cleaning, and for its stabilizing effect. And what it really does is it will additives wear out in oil. Oil doesn't wear out. The additive packages do. So that's what it's a supercharger for your oil, and it will bring to life older engines. Not that yours is that old, because 06, 150,000, that's not a lot of miles. Not in today's standards. But you've got this truck, and you're knowledgeable, and you drive this truck daily. I mean, you do a 240-mile trip. I mean, for you talk like that was no big deal. For a lot of people, for me, I drive 10 miles a day. I'll drive 10,000 miles a year max. So anyway, try that, and then call me and give me a report on how that worked for you.
Okay.
All right.
I'll get back with you here in a couple weeks.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Bobby. Have a good day.
You as well. So, folks, I want to share with you, if you like to listen to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, we're available with a podcast. Just go to, and remember this. Well, you remember Car Clinic. I mean, that's the Bobby Likis Car Clinic. But go to Car Clinic Network, like the radio network, the broadcast network. That's what we are. CarClinicNetwork.com. And then click on the Car Clinic Library /podcast. And you can find Car Clinic on iTunes as well. But I would appreciate and very much enjoy if you would go to CarClinicNetwork.com and click on the Car Clinic Library /podcast and download and just subscribe. And by subscribing, you can enjoy your Saturday. If you've got to be on the road and can't get to me, you can listen to it at your convenience. And you can stop it when you want to stop it and go when you want to go. It's really cool. And so I would invite you to do that. Let's go to New York and take a call from Jeff in New York. And folks, for those of you tuned in, 888-227-2546 is the number. Jeff, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning again, Bobby. Thank you for the call, taking the call.
You're welcome. What can I do for you?
Well, the old Battle Axe 94 Plymouth minivan. So I've got a starting issue with it, and I'll give you the update on what I've done. I've gone through and checked battery terminal connections, grounds, cleaned them up.
Okay, wait, Jeff, start or crank? Start means the engine comes alive. Crank means
It won't do either.
Well, obviously it won't start if it won't crank. But your initial problem is more about cranking over than running.
It
correct?
won't crank.
It won't crank.
It won't crank.
Okay, and all right. So you got a 94. What kind of van is it?
It's a Plymouth minivan Voyager.
Okay, got it.
4-cylinder, 5-speed, yeah.
Okay.
So I pulled all the relays out. I've tested them all. They seem to all be working. I've swapped them all around as well. What I haven't done is gone under the car and loosened the starter connections and taken a look at those and tightened them. But now I have proven that my fuel pump will run, and I can prove it and make it run.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I turn the key on, I hear one relay click, and then nothing happens. It won't run the pump, and it won't crank.
Well, it won't run the pump because the pump only continues to run after the engine is running. And, well, there's the brake. Those pesky brakes. We got Jeff, you stay right there, folks. I'll come back.
Folks, recently a 99 Chevrolet Blazer came into the shop. The owner was having problems with hesitation upon acceleration. He'd already changed out several parts: spark plugs, wires, ignition coil, mass airflow sensor, fuel filter, and the air filter element. He even changed the thermostat and coolant temperature sensor. Still had the same problem after putting a lot of money in this car, and he was frustrated. We dug a little deeper, cleaned the throttle body, and checked for trouble codes. No codes. So we recommended Berryman B12 Chem Tool. Carbon deposits and dirty fuel injector nozzles are a common problem with drivability in late model engines. We also recommended a higher quality gasoline. The customer noticed improvement on the first day, and only a few days and a few hundred miles later, the problem was completely gone. Berryman B12 Chem Tool features HEST, Berryman's exclusive high-energy solvent technology. The result is a more complete combination of available chemical technologies. Drive to BerrymanProducts.com for more information. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease. And she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Invite you to call 888-227-2546. That's 888 Car Clinic. We're talking with Jeff in New York. So Jeff, let me ask you a few questions. I know that you've and Jeff, folks, has a 94 Chrysler Dodge van that doesn't crank. And crank means you turn the starter, the key, and it goes. Run means the engine runs. So Jeff, when you turn, obviously you have a good battery and good battery connections, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And when you turn the key, when you put the key in the ignition, go with me, and you turn to run position, not to the crank position, but to run, you get all the dash lights that they come on, the radio plays, and so all of that, you got continuity from power from the battery to the dash, right?
That's correct.
When you go to the crank mode, which is the spring-loaded position of the ignition switch.
Yep. Yep.
What's that in the background? You in the car?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. If you had the radio on, and you go to the crank mode, the radio will cut off, and or the air. Because that's designed that way. In fact, many people think historically that you should turn the air conditioner off before you start the car, and that's totally not necessary because the ignition will turn everything off on the accessory so that the battery voltage doesn't get parasitically drawn, and all of the voltage available goes directly to the starter. So in your case, what you're doing in the crank mode is you're sending power, if the ignition switch is doing its job, through the neutral safety switch, which means you got to have the car in park or in neutral. Now, of the van. So you've got it. You're in the van, right?
I was.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I heard the noise. All right, anyway, so you want to try to start it in park, and obviously it doesn't start. Now you want to put the vehicle in neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And then try to start it in neutral, and wiggle.
And
you have tried that.
I have done that.
Okay.
I've done that, and I've also I've unplugged and shorted across the neutral safety switch, as well as manually operating the neutral safety switch. So it's. I don't think it's the safety switch.
Okay. So then if you're that sharp, that savvy, I would use a test light to see if on the starter, which you can get to, I believe you can get to the starter igniter or wire, which is the starter solenoid power to determine. And here's the bottom line, Jeff. If you can get to the wire that feeds power to the starter, you can also take a wire source from the battery. Just make sure the car's in park. And make sure that the key is on. Make sure everything's clean here, and you can go underneath this vehicle, and you can run a power wire to the starter solenoid and be your own ignition switch. And by providing power to the starter solenoid, that wire, and the starter doesn't work, then you know you got a bad starter.
Right.
So that makes sense.
It does, and that's pretty much from what I can tell, that's kind of the last thing I haven't done is, although I was messing around in there with a wire brush the other day, and I did see a little bit of a spark at the starter from the wire brush. So
yeah,
I think there's getting power down there.
Yeah, I would think so. And I'll tell you something else you can do. You can really get technical and get your hammer out and I mean, hey, look, man, when you're on the side of the road, anything works. We've actually had cars that came in on the hook. And our wrecker driver was new to our company and left the car out front, and it's uphill into our shop from the front, and it's downhill from the back. So all the wreckers leave the cars in the back so they can coast into the shop, so we don't have to push them in. So on occasion, we've had a couple of cars that wouldn't start because they had bad fuel pumps. And you take a big rubber mallet, and if you can get to the gas tank, you go boom, and you kick the gas tank, and that vibration, like sonic, waves, shakes the fuel pump. And we've actually been able to make a car run that had a bad fuel pump because we slammed the fuel tank. So you can do the same thing with a starter. And furthermore, if you can't get quite to the starter, you take an extension of some kind and a hammer. Don't use a mallet, use a hammer, because you want metal on metal. And have someone to hold the key in the start mode, or keep turning the key to the start mode, and you bang, 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 bang. And if it starts, and you got a bad armature, you got a bad spot on the starter. That's what I would do if I were you.
That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Was, even though there's kind of a sequence, you turn the key on, you're supposed to get fuel prime from the electric pump.
Yep.
If that starter was not doing its thing, I would think that the fuel pump would still be energized and you'd hear it run.
Well,
I don't even hear that. I don't hear anything from the fuel pump, even though if I short the fuel pump with power, I know it runs.
Yeah, but I think you should concentrate on what the problem is, because that fuel pump it only runs. It runs momentarily when you go to the crank, to the start mode. That we know that. But that's 3/4 of a second. Bzzz, it just primes the pump. And then, in fact, some cars have now, like a Ford, you can open the door. When you open the driver's door and the interior light comes on, the fuel pump runs and primes the car. I mean, it's really way strange and in a way, but anyway, the bottom line is, during the cranking cycle, as the starter motor is turning, only then does the fuel pump get power, and it does that so that if you're out of fuel, I mean, the pump has to run in the crank mode, because if you run a car out of fuel and you crank it and there's no power to the fuel pump, it would never start again. So during the cranking, so there's 3 ways the pump gets power. Momentary power when you go to the run from off, bzzz, and that's 3/4 of a second. Then when you crank the engine during the cranking, during the starter motor turnover, then there's power sent to the fuel pump. And then when you turn the key loose after the engine starts on a healthy car, the computer has a relay that sends power to the pump. So there's 3 different ways the pump runs, and it's all for the safety, because the pump won't run without the engine running continuously. Anyway,
yes. One more quick question on that
quickly,
pump.
yes.
That thing runs all the time. Is that normal?
What runs all the time?
The fuel pump.
No.
The thing drives me nuts. I can hear it running. It just runs all the time.
Well,
it's
not
run for years.
When the engine's running, yeah. Well, yeah.
I thought it was just a prime.
Oh, no. That supplies the pressure.
It's got to make fuel pressure.
Yeah. Well, and Jeff, one thing, that fuel pump pumps 30 gallons an hour at 70 miles an hour. It pumps 30 gallons an hour standing still with the engine idling. It pumps, and all this fuel that goes to the engine goes up there, and the injectors take their allotment, and the rest is sent back to the tank, and that circulates the fuel, which keeps the fuel cool and eliminates vapor lock. And and there are some different engines that don't have a return, but yours does. Anyway, I got to go. Get back to me after you get to the other side. Let me know what you found.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Bobby.
I appreciate you, Jeff. Thank you from New York. Let's take another call from Bill in New York. Bill, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bill, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, Bobby. I've got a Dodge, 2008 Dodge 3500 with a 6.7 Cummins, and we recently had to change the oil pan. Of course, had to pull the motor out. We left the transmission in, pulled the motor out, put the new oil pan on, and tightened everything down to 8 pounds torque. There's a small gasket on the back of the oil pan towards the transmission.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it appears that is now leaking a little bit, and I don't dare I don't dare tighten it down any more than 8 pounds necessarily, but I think there's 2 or maybe 4 screws that for that particular part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other way other than taking the motor back out in order to try and get that leak to stop that you know of?
No, because yes, there are products on the market. In fact, I actually mentioned the Berryman product, which is a B60 oil rejuvenator that also helps to return some of the elasticity to seals, and that helps to stop oil leaks. But in this case, because you've been there and done that, and you have an oil leak, I suspect that there's an improper fitment, and unfortunately, if you're going to really fix this, well, here's what to do. Here's what to do, Bill. Add dye, clean the car off, clean the engine off, add engine oil dye, and you can use the special glasses and see exactly where it's coming from, and then determine where it's coming from exactly, and then you'll know whether or not you can maybe pull one of the bolts out and put some silicone seal in the bolt and wash it out with cleaner and put the bolt back in. But you're not going to tighten down a seal that's leaking. You're not going to snug it like we used to do on old Chevrolet valve cover gaskets years ago. Those days are gone. If it's leaking oil, you ain't going to tighten it to stop it. And if it's leaking oil because there's a seam or a gap or a gasket bad, you're also not going to pour product in to stop it. So I suspect, as much as I know you don't want to do this, I suspect you're going to have to pull the engine. But I'd at least, before I pull the engine, use oil dye to determine specifically where it was, because where it is now, it's just wet up there. So dry it all off, put dye in, and then crank it up and run it, and then you'll say, oh, there it is. Even before you see the oil, you'll see the dye. You got it? And
yeah,
then,
well, I see where it's leaking from. I mean, it's only one little section right on the back side of the oil pan that goes up and over and back down. So I can see exactly where it's leaking.
Well,
it's leaking that much.
Well, you got to do it over again then. So
that's really sucky.
I know. So just go watch the Super Bowl tomorrow and rejuvenate. and if your team wins, hey man, I feel for you. But boy, sometimes you just gotta. If at first you don't succeed, you know the story there. Okay.
Oh boy.
Oh, I know, Bill. I know life's a witch. Hey, thanks.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, that was a separate part of the gasket that went onto the oil pan, so I thought maybe I could just.
What can you get to it to pull it off?
Maybe I wouldn't have to actually pull the motor. I could just take that out and.
Well, do it. Then do it.
Well,
then do it. If you can get that piece out that you're talking about, if you can get that piece out without pulling the motor, by all means, do it, because ultimately you got open hood surgery. So if you want to do a little small job, then by all means, don't be afraid, but don't over tighten it. Pull it out and find out why it's leaking and fix it. Okay.
All righty.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir. Have a good day.
You as well. I knew he didn't want to hear that. Folks, I want to share something with you. It's really about one of our partner sponsors, Motorrad. Motorrad was recently honored, and this honor was in the country of Mexico, with the 2019 National Award for Automotive Quality in the Thermostats category. And so that means a lot to me. Why? Because since 2003, this award has acknowledged brands that are considered excellent in their quality, technical service, packaging, and warranty. So that tells me that Motorrad stands behind their product. And in the past, Motorrad has also been recognized as an award-winning company across various fields, including, get this, Vendor of the Year by Factory Ford Parts, and the General Motors Supplier Quality Excellence Award in 2015. And in 2016, the company won gold at the Automotive Content Professionals Network Conference. Motorrad was also honored with the 2017 AutoZone, and get this, What It Takes to Do the Job Right award. in both the United States and Mexico. So hats off to Motorrad. And so when you think about radiator caps and thermostats or sensors, crank, cam sensors, variable valve timing sensors, Motorrad's the company. Motorrad.com. There's a question here, and I see that there are other callers, but I am out of time for today's broadcast. Remember, there's a tow to go from AAA. Don't drive and drink. And if you had a lot of fun tomorrow during the Super Bowl time, you can just call, go to AAA.com, tow to go, and they'll come and pick you up and pick your car up if it's within 10 miles for no charge, even if you're not a member. So hats off to them. Let's see what else. There's a report. My disappointment in the Rolex last week, the new 2020 Corvette, you know, the Chevrolet Corvette C8R was competing and had the new engine layout, and it could only manage 4th and 7th place in their race debut. Now, what does that mean? It means they got to work. They got to go back to the drawing board and work harder next week, but I'm sure General Motors will do that. And also, for your information, there's a lot going on in Detroit with GM, and you're going to hear about this through yours truly very soon. So make sure next week you tune in to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, 10 to noon every Saturday. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, we only partner with companies we believe in, like K-Seal, which is an excellent option for repairing a coolant leak, especially for older vehicles that may not be worth the cost to repair. But don't take our word for it. K-Seal was recently used to repair the block on a 1913 Type 22 Bugatti, the oldest running Bugatti in the U.S. with a value of approximately $2 million. You can find K-Seal at Menards, in addition to fine part stores nationwide. Learn more at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
O'Reilly. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, pick up 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil for $28.95 and get a $10 O'Reilly gift card after mail-in rebate. Protect your engine from sludge and wear with Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P-Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain